Five old friends crowd into a London pub and argue about where adulthood should take their next holiday. Amsterdam sounds tired, Ibiza sounds embarrassing, but Rob suggests hiking Sweden's King's Trail. Luke likes the idea of a real challenge, never imagining that this casual plan will soon become the last wish of a dead friend. Rob specifically wants them to do something worthwhile together, making his proposal feel like a quiet attempt to preserve their fading bond. Later, Luke follows Rob into a small shop for one more bottle. Two armed thieves are terrorizing the clerk, and Luke slips behind a shelf before they notice him. Rob has nowhere to hide. Luke watches through the display, close enough to act, yet too frightened to reveal himself or risk becoming another victim. The thieves are already brutalizing the clerk, so Luke understands immediately that stepping out could turn one hostage into two. The robbers take Rob's wallet and watch, then demand his wedding ring. Rob finally resists, and one thief caves in his skull while Luke remains frozen behind the shelf. The killers escape, leaving Luke alive and almost untouched. That survival becomes a private accusation he will carry long after the police and funeral are gone. Rob's resistance is impulsive but human. The ring represents his marriage, and surrendering it feels like allowing the robbers to erase his life. 6 months later, Luke, Hutch, Dom, and Phil finally make the Swedish hike Rob proposed. Their jokes about expensive boots and aching bodies sound like the old days, but every empty space in the conversation belongs to the missing fifth man. They have come for scenery, companionship, and a farewell none of them knows how to complete. Hutch naturally guides the group, Dom complains through pain, Phil follows nervously, and Luke uses physical effort to avoid talking about grief. On a high ridge, they raise a small stone memorial and drink to Rob, calling him the best among them. Hutch tells Luke the murder was not his fault. Luke accepts the words without believing them. He can cross mountains, but he cannot pass the instant when fear made him hide while Rob stood alone. Their ceremony gives the holiday its real purpose, yet it also places Luke among friends who remember Rob without sharing Luke's final memory. Rain turns the trail treacherous, and Dom slips hard enough to damage a knee he injured before. The marked route now means 6 hours to camp and another 8 to the lodge. Dom cannot manage 14 hours, so a minor accident becomes the decision that pushes all 4 men away from safety. Because Dom recognizes the damaged meniscus from an earlier injury, the group cannot dismiss the fall as ordinary soreness or simply push ahead. Hutch studies the map and finds a shortcut southwest through the forest. As the crow flies, it could cut the journey in half. Luke suggests leaving food while 2 men fetch help, but Dom refuses to wait alone. Convinced that a little off-trail adventure may even do them good, they enter the trees together. The shortcut is not reckless on paper. Its danger comes from treating a blank area on the map as if distance were the only problem. The forest immediately feels wrong. Sound disappears beneath the dense canopy, old markings appear on trunks, and even their jokes cannot fill the silence. They pause for a cheerful group selfie, preserving the image of 4 friends who still believe this is an inconvenience. Behind them, the woods already seem to have swallowed the trail. With no birds, machinery, or distant voices, every footstep sounds exposed, and the forest begins isolating them before anything openly attacks. Their first unmistakable warning is a gutted elk suspended impossibly high in the branches. Its body is still bleeding, so whatever killed and arranged it must be close. The men argue about bears, hunters, and bait, but none of those explanations fits what they see. Fear finally overrules curiosity, and they hurry deeper onward. The elevated carcass also mirrors a ritual offering, though the men cling to natural explanations because accepting intelligence would be more frightening. A violent storm destroys their hope of reaching town before dark. Lost, soaked, and unable to pitch tents safely, they spot a lonely house hidden among the trees. Shelter wins over caution. They force their way inside, even though Luke hears movement outside and the abandoned rooms feel less empty than they look. Their decision is understandable rather than foolish. Remaining outside in freezing rain with an injured man could be deadly before any predator arrives. Inside, they find the same angular symbol carved into a tree outside. Luke keeps hearing noises, while Hutch insists wild animals are the only neighbors they should expect. The men make a fire and search for fuel, treating the building as a temporary refuge, yet every detail suggests they have entered a place meant for worship. The repeated mark suggests ownership or direction, but none of them knows whether it warns intruders away or guides sacrifices inward. Upstairs, Phil discovers a headless figure made from branches with antlers where hands should be. Hutch calls it pagan or Nordic ritual work. The effigy resembles the shape of the elk in the tree, linking the slaughter outside to the house. They agree to sleep downstairs and leave the moment daylight returns. Human materials shaped into a distorted body show that someone built the idol deliberately, connecting the wilderness threat to organized belief. Night gives the house access to their minds. Luke opens his eyes inside the London shop, hearing the robbers and seeing Rob face them again. The memory is more than a dream. It places Luke back at the exact point of his shame, forcing him to experience the choice he has spent 6 months avoiding. In the nightmare, Luke is not permitted to imagine a better outcome. The scene repeats his paralysis exactly, preserving guilt instead of resolving it. The others suffer their own violations. Dom wakes shouting for his wife, Gail, while Hutch finds Luke panicked and disoriented. Phil is missing until they discover him upstairs, naked and kneeling before the antlered idol. He cannot explain how he got there. Something has turned private fear into involuntary worship. Each vision targets a different vulnerability, proving the house does not merely frighten visitors but studies the emotional pressure points within them. At dawn, they flee without restoring the house. Luke finds fresh puncture marks across his chest, and another carved symbol outside confirms the night's events were not shared imagination. Dom wants to reverse course, but Hutch still trusts the compass. Their shortcut has failed, and disagreement now makes every direction dangerous. The wounds make Luke both witness and evidence, yet the others' fear encourages them to treat any supernatural conclusion as another bad decision. Phil quietly admits that he was made to pray, but shame keeps the group from examining what happened. They follow a faint path because signs of people might mean civilization. Instead, the track carries them farther into the creature's territory, where human presence and supernatural danger appear to be parts of the same system. Their refusal to compare experiences costs them vital understanding, because shared details could have revealed that one mind is manipulating all four. When Dom's knee slows them again, Luke climbs a ridge to scout. Among the trunks, he briefly sees an enormous shape moving with impossible speed. He returns with new marks on his body and warns the others, but Dom dismisses his judgment. Luke is certain they are being watched and equally certain no one trusts him. The glimpse is fragmentary, too large for a person and too coordinated for random shadow, so certainty arrives without a clear shape to fight. The argument releases everything the friends refuse to say. Dom claims Luke can fight them but could not stand up for Rob. He calls Luke a coward who left the shop without a drop of blood on him. Luke punches Dom, then asks whether they truly blame him. No answer can repair the friendship or silence the accusation. Hutch and Phil try to stop the violence, but their silence about Rob confirms that Dom has spoken a suspicion already poisoning the group. Further on, they find a collapsed tent, abandoned shoes, and a credit card belonging to Anna Eriksson that expired in 1984. Someone vanished here decades earlier and was never recovered. Hutch insists searchers will soon follow their registered route, but the old campsite proves people can disappear in this forest without leaving it. The abandoned belongings make Hutch's rescue timetable sound fragile. Searchers will begin from the marked trail, while the friends are far beyond it. They camp again as daylight fades. Dom's knee is worsening and Phil looks physically and mentally unwell. Hutch asks Luke, the strongest, to take the compass and seek help alone at dawn. It is an act of trust that gives Luke another chance to leave danger, but this time leaving would mean returning for his friends. Luke agrees because going alone is useful, not evasive. He intends to bring rescuers back, reversing the meaning that escape once held for him. Before morning, the creature strikes the camp. Luke wakes to screams and sees only moving shadows before Hutch is dragged away. He wants to chase the cries, but Dom warns that running blind will lose everyone. Forced to retreat, Luke hears his closest ally vanish into the same darkness Hutch believed he could navigate. Hutch's disappearance removes the map reader and emotional mediator at once, leaving 3 frightened men without the person who kept them cooperative. At dawn, they find Hutch's body gutted and displayed in a tree, arranged exactly like the elk. The placement is deliberate. The hunter knew which direction they would travel and wanted them to see its work. There is no time to bury him. Luke takes responsibility for getting the remaining men out before it returns. The display repeats the elk's posture so precisely that the survivors understand the earlier carcass was not warning them about danger. It previewed them. Luke, Dom, and Phil finally stop pretending the threat is human. The thing followed them from the house, entered their dreams, and planted Hutch's corpse on their path. Luke grips Hutch's knife and leads them southwest, but leadership offers no certainty. The forest is no longer a landscape. It is an intelligent trap closing around them. Every southwesterly choice has led toward another prepared horror, raising the possibility that even their compass has only traced a route the hunter allows. They pass more carved signs and traces of people, but refuse to follow them. Phil collapses and confesses that the presence is still inside his head, compelling him to pray to the idol. Luke pulls him up and insists the house is far behind. Distance, however, has not broken the creature's claim over any of them. Phil's confession confirms that prayer is imposed through psychic force, explaining how terrified outsiders can be converted before they understand the cult. At last, Luke sees daylight between the trees and believes the forest edge is close. For one breath, rescue feels possible. Dom and Phil hear something behind them and turn away from Luke. The creature uses that small separation perfectly, transforming the promise of escape into another ambush before the men can reach open ground. The opening ahead may be genuine, but the hunter attacks before they can test it, suggesting it patrols the boundary and recognizes attempts to leave. Phil disappears first. Luke hears him but cannot reach him, then finds Dom alive and shaking. Dom says the attacker is fast and hunting them. He fears dying alone. Luke looks directly at the man who called him a coward and promises he will not leave, choosing commitment where the old Luke chose concealment. Luke still cannot save Phil, yet he does not retreat into self-protection afterward. He searches until he finds the friend who can still be helped. Luke has found what may be a path out, but Dom's injured leg can barely move. They count to 3 and run together. The creature reveals strange shining eyes, and Phil's body appears in their path. Dom wants to stop, but Luke drags him onward, refusing to let another deliberate display decide their fate. Dom's weight and damaged leg make speed nearly impossible, so continuing together is a tactical disadvantage Luke accepts rather than abandoning him. The apparent escape route leads not to rescuers but to a hidden settlement. Luke shouts for help, and villagers emerge only to overwhelm both men. They wake tied inside a room while figures outside assemble an altar. The human signs in the forest were real, but they belonged to servants of the hunter, not a way home. The villagers' silence and speed show they expected arrivals, making the settlement feel like the destination toward which every forest sign has steered them. Luke strains toward a table, hoping broken glass can cut their ropes. Before he can free them, a woman gives him water and then helps drag Dom away. The captives are not random victims of an animal attack. They have been delivered for a ceremony the villagers understand and have practiced many times before. Broken glass offers a practical escape method, but Luke cannot reach it quickly enough before the cult resumes the sequence already planned for Dom. A cultist tells Luke that preparations for the sacrifice are nearly complete. Outside, Dom is washed, marked, and presented to the gathered worshippers. The settlement survives by cooperating with the force that rules the forest, feeding strangers to it while describing terror as devotion and murder as a sacred privilege. The villagers perform ordinary acts of washing and construction with calm efficiency, which makes their participation more disturbing than uncontrolled fanaticism. After the ceremony pauses, Dom tells Luke about his nightmare. He saw dead hands holding him while villagers offered him to the creature, and he saw Gale waiting beyond them. Now he knows the vision was a promise. Luke desperately insists he can still prevent it because losing Dom would mean losing every friend who entered the forest. Dom's dream included his own death before capture, confirming that the creature used the house to rehearse submission and weaken resistance in advance. Dom understands that Luke cannot save him in time. He orders Luke to escape, burn the settlement, and tell Gale that he tried to return to her. Most importantly, he tells Luke not to stop. Dom's last request transforms survival from shameful flight into a duty Luke must fulfill on behalf of the dead. By giving Luke a task beyond escape, Dom releases him from surviving only for himself and makes reaching home an obligation to the others. Dragged before the altar, Dom refuses to become a silent offering. He insults the worshippers and calls their god out, demanding it show itself. The defiance cannot save him, but it restores the courage fear stripped away. He meets the creature standing, turning his final seconds into resistance instead of consent. His insults disrupt the solemn ceremony, denying the cult the image of a willing victim and forcing their god to confront open contempt. The monster uses Dom's deepest attachment against him. He sees Gale among the trees, calls her name, and reaches toward the illusion of home. Then the vast antlered being takes him, kills him, and hangs his body above the settlement. Love and grief are the handles it uses to bend human beings into worship. The false vision of Gale is cruelly precise, offering Dom the reunion he wanted just as the creature takes away any chance of achieving it. Back inside, a cultist explains what the forest serves. The creature is an ancient J-ton, said to be a bastard offspring of Loki. It grants its followers lives beyond nature, freeing them from ordinary pain and death, but the gift confines them to this remote place and requires complete submission. The cult's long lives are therefore neither rescue nor freedom. They are payment for maintaining sacrifices and never leaving the being's territory. Luke has been chosen because his pain is immense. The cult believes guilt has already taught him to kneel, making him ideal for conversion rather than immediate sacrifice. He is offered endless life under the monster's protection. Luke rejects it, recognizing that immortality purchased by fear would preserve his worst moment forever. Luke's guilt resembles religious submission because it has kept him emotionally kneeling for months, convinced that one failure defines every future choice. The villagers promise that Luke will bow like everyone else or hang from the trees. For the first time, he stops asking whether survival makes him a coward. The real choice is whether fear controls his next action. He decides that even death is preferable to becoming one of the creature's obedient, ageless prisoners. Refusal does not mean Luke is suddenly fearless. It means he accepts fear as something he can carry without obeying whoever exploits it. Luke escapes his bindings and explores the upper rooms, where withered bodies reveal the true price of unnatural longevity. He sets the decaying worshippers and the building ablaze, turning Dom's final command into action. Flames spread through the settlement, breaking the cult's order and summoning its god back toward the chaos. The preserved bodies upstairs expose worship's endpoint. Survival continues while identity, movement, and every relationship beyond the forest slowly disappear. Armed with an axe, Luke confronts a villager blocking his escape. In the shop, he hid while an armed man threatened Rob. Here, he stands in the open and fights his way forward. The parallel is not an erasure of guilt, but it proves that the failure which defined him does not have to govern him forever. Taking the axe reverses the geometry of the robbery, placing Luke between a weapon and his route forward instead of behind cover watching someone else. The J-ton tears into the burning settlement, punishing worshippers who failed to contain the captive. Luke uses the confusion to run, but the creature follows with overwhelming speed. It does not merely want his body. Because it senses his grief, it wants him alive, kneeling, and convinced that resistance is impossible. Fire removes the cult's illusion of control, revealing that the worshippers are protected only while they keep supplying victims and enforcing obedience. The forest shifts around Luke and becomes the shop once more. Shelves rise among the trees, Rob faces the robbers, and the command not to move echoes through the memory. The monster has found the wound beneath every other wound. If Luke submits to the reenactment, his guilt will become its permanent chain. The hallucination combines the creature's psychic power with Luke's own memory, so defeating it requires changing his response rather than proving the past unreal. This time Luke refuses the script. He will not stay hidden and he will not bow. He attacks with the axe even though the creature is vastly stronger. Each blow is less about killing a god than reclaiming the ability to act while afraid of Euros, the ability he needed when Rob was still alive. Rob still dies in the vision because courage cannot rewrite history. Luke's victory is acting now without demanding that action cancel what happened. The J-ton batters and impales Luke, then forces him down as if demanding worship. Luke rises again, strikes its face, and runs toward the thinning trees. The monster follows until the forest abruptly ends. Its ancient power has a boundary, and the open field beyond it offers the first honest escape in the entire journey. Even grievously wounded, Luke keeps moving toward daylight, turning Dom's instruction to never stop into the rhythm that carries him past the final trees. From the safety of open ground, Luke turns back. The creature roars for submission, towering over the tree line, but Luke answers with a scream of his own. He cannot bring Rob, Hutch, Phil, or Dom home. He can only carry their memory forward, alive because he finally chose courage without pretending fear had disappeared. His answering roar is neither triumph nor relief. It is a declaration that the creature can retain the forest, but no longer owns Luke's pain.